Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bonnie Vandermeulen, Training Coordinator for Wisconsin Facets. On behalf of our entire Wisconsin Facet staff, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is on assistive technology, AT Forward, and our presenter today is Jennifer Schubring. Jennifer is a speech and language pathologist with expertise in augmentive and alternate communication and assistive technology. She will again be able to present herself and tell you a little bit more about herself. So it's my great pleasure today to introduce to you Jennifer Schubring. Jennifer?
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, and I did put a link to the bit.ly if you want the actual Google slides. There were a few updates since the PDF, so most of the information is the same as the PDF, so you can either click on the bit.ly, enter it in, or download that PDF. I was supposed to be presenting with a co-presenter, Cassie Frost. Cassie, I do want to acknowledge, although she can't be here today due to a family emergency, she did help put these slides together and is a colleague of mine from the Stevens Point area. She also has an expertise in assistive technology, and she worked in a behavior classroom for many years and currently provides assistive technology support to the Stevens Point Area School District. As Bonnie mentioned, my name is Jennifer Schubring. I am a speech language pathologist by training and have an expertise in augmentative and alternative communication along with assistive technology. I began learning about AAC about 20 years ago as an undergraduate student at UW-Madison, and I worked at the Communication Aids and Systems Clinic as an undergraduate. And then I went on to work at Penn State and studied under one of the leading researchers in the entire world, Dr. Janice Light, doing research and learning more about augmentative and alternative communication. For the past 13 years, I've worked in the Wisconsin public schools, and about 3 years ago, I opened my own private practice building AAC, really because there's been such a need for providing individuals with complex communication needs better supports throughout the state of Wisconsin. And I currently work in the Green Bay area public schools as well, part-time, and live in the Green Bay area. So today we have a few learning objectives that I'll quickly review. By the end of this session, you will be able to identify some of the legal considerations for assistive technology for students who have an IEP. You will also be able to identify one resource for learning more about specific assistive technology topics. So a lot of this presentation will focus on where you can learn more. I can't, in an hour's time, can't impart all of my AT wisdom on all of you, but I can help lead you to where to go to learn more. And you'll be able to find information about the AT Forward Community of Practice, the webpage, learn how to join the Community of Practice, learn more about this year's topics and how to register. This evening, Cassie, hopefully, fingers crossed, and I will be presenting on behavior and communication for the AT Forward Community of Practice. That presentation will be from 4 to 5. So by the end of this presentation, if that's a topic you're interested in, you will know how to register for that, and I hope you all can attend. So this workshop, we're going to share out about assistive technology, the legal requirements, and the COP meetings, which we just reviewed. So let's get started with some of those legal requirements, or as I often say, the legal mumbo jumbo. It starts with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And by definition, assistive technology means any item, piece of equipment, or product system, and that can be acquired commercially off the shelf, or it can be modified and customized to increase, maintain, and improve the capabilities of an individual with disabilities. In this case, a child, because we are IDEA, really focuses on the educational system. The term assistive technology service means any service that directly assists a child with a disability in the selection, acquisition, and use of that technology. So as an AT practitioner, I can provide AT equipment, or I can provide AT services. So in my school position, I come in and I may help train the individual, the child, maybe the classroom staff, maybe the parents or caregivers on how to also use that technology. So there's sort of two branches to assistive technology. It's that device and then the service that can go along with it. The Wisconsin state statute reads assistive technology service means any service that directly assists a child with a disability in the selection, acquisition, or use of assistive technology device. And then it says including the following, and you can click on the link to go to the web page to see what all of that looks like. So what is assistive technology? Here's just a nice little sort of infographic on assistive technology, and it can be something as simple as writing and maybe some different pencil grips to assist that individual with a disability to write more easily. It can be executive functioning skills such as task management and how to manage your time, maybe through the use of timers, which can be electronic. I mean, now we can say, and my own children say, hey, Google, and we'll just set a timer. Or it can be like those old-fashioned kitchen timers that we use when we're baking. So there are lots of different types of assistive technology sort of on a continuum that we can utilize. There are other things such as text to speech, where we no longer actually have to be able to type. We, with just the use of a microphone and some built-in accessibility tools, can write a paper just through speaking. Or we can have text read out loud to us as well. So down here under reading, if we have learners that maybe are struggling readers and not up to grade level, they may utilize having text read out loud to them, so that in a class like social studies or science, where we're not really focusing on the skill of reading, but we want to make sure that they're getting the content, we have assistive technology tools that can help support that. My area of expertise would be communication, so providing augmentative and alternative communication to individuals that have complex communication needs. And that can be through low-tech supports, such as pointing at pictures, sign language. It can be gestures, emojis. These days, that communication piece of things, though, is also considered assistive technology. So you can see there's a lot of different branches. And I'm hoping if I click on this, you guys will be able to see it. It's not coming up. But you can click on the WADI continuum, and it is just a really nice checklist if you are a parent and you kind of want to see, what are some of those supports that my child might be using, or if you're an educational professional or an advocate, just being able to see what some of those continuums are and what that might look like can be very helpful in knowing what AT is, because there's a lot out there that is assistive technology. So in this school, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between universal supports and assistive technology. So there's some nice images here. The first is of a ramp leading up to a sidewalk. And now legally, all municipalities have to have these curb cuts and have to have these ramps so that all individuals can utilize that sidewalk. And although it all stemmed out of the legal requirements for individuals with disabilities, it also benefits everybody. So it's considered a universal support. Somebody who's pushing a stroller, or somebody like right here, we've got this example, and this is maybe not the best example of automatic doors, because I hate these kind of doors going through them. But if you have automatic doors into an entryway, that benefits all of us, especially now during COVID, because we don't have to touch the door handle, get germs on our hands. The doors just automatically open. But for individuals that maybe are in a wheelchair, that becomes an assistive technology. It's something that that individual needs in order to have access to their environment, just like the rest of us. So it can benefit all of us, but it's an actual need and it's necessary for some people. And for individuals with disabilities, when it is a need in order to have equal access, that's when it becomes assistive technology versus a universal support. Bonnie, do we have any questions at this point? Or if anyone has a question about any of the legal requirements, I'm happy to pause for a minute.
We don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, so then I want to take a few minutes and I'm going to share a video from you from one of our AT Forward Community of Practice meetings. And this is just a few words from some individuals that use assistive technology daily that have a disability. Again, I can utilize a lot of that same technology, but for me, it's not a requirement. For the individuals you're going to hear from, it definitely helps them live more independently. So I'm going to play this for a few minutes.
We have a number of folks here to share their experience. We have Mike Hipple, Tim Carey, and Matthew and Mitchell Burge. Did I say that correct? We have questions that were submitted by our community of practice members. And I shared that with our panel today, and they had the opportunity to review those questions, and they're going to share their insights and answers with us. So we're going to start with our first question. What assistive technology do you use the most right now? We're going to start with Mike.
Hello, everyone. That's me today. After Dr. Reed and Dr. Bouncer, I know I am no big deal. If you are new here, I am Mike Hipple. I am the founder of Wisconsin Augmented Alternative Communication Network. I am a user of all things assistive technology and a lover of our field, the assistive technology field. You have asked us some questions about our lives with assistive technology. My most used assistive technology tools are my Accent 1400 made by PRC, my power chair, and the third one. Almost everyone who asks me this question is surprised by this, but it is my red spoons and forks. Because I can't use the same forks and spoons as you do, I use them daily to live my life. I am in my power chair for 7 to 10 hours and maybe more than I need to have the right cushion and the right supports to keep me feeling great to live my life the way I want to.
Thanks, Mike. Up next, Tim. Do you want to share your experience or what you use most right now?
Right now, right camera, just once I get taken out, records and stuff like that. But, I have my Windows recognition advisor app, which connects my phone to my computer, so I can use it easier. My cell phone, Alexa, and Zoom.
So I'm going to go to the second question then. And the second question is, how did you learn about the assistive technology tools you use, and who helped you the most in learning how to use it? Let's start up at the top. Mike, do you want to go ahead and go first?
Okay, I have my answer.
Okay, Matt, go right ahead.
Are we doing the second one?
You can do the first one.
Okay.
What assistive technology you use the most?
I actually use a lot of different assistive technology devices right now. I'd say the most I use our groceries app. I create grocery lists and stuff like that on there. Social media, I use Snapchat. I also just got a job and we use GroupMe, Notepad, Google Maps to get to places I don't know. the Amazon Echo has a drop-in feature where I can drop in on friends and family. And obviously Zoom. And video interviews, I just had a video interview for a job I just got. It's perfect. And that is the ones I use for it.
So you can see just from the range of individuals that talked about their experience in the community of practice meeting. We have an individual such as Mike Hipple who really benefits from his power wheelchair, his communication device, and his spoons and forks, which was kind of a surprising answer, but is considered an assistive technology. And then we had the second young man who talked about using speech to text and using things like the Amazon Echo. And then Matthew, who is an individual with autism, surprisingly, and we all maybe use different ways to write down our grocery list, but for Matthew to live independently, it is critical for him to have that app in order to make sure when he does run to the grocery store that he's not missing anything and he has everything that he needs. So there can be a big range of assistive technology that is out there, and we can learn so much from individuals who have disabilities that actually use it from day to day, because things such as the grocery app to me wouldn't necessarily cross my mind, or maybe the special spoons and forks may not cross my mind, but for them they are definitely critical and highly important, as you heard them speak. So that was a little sample of one of our AT community of practice meetings, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what the AT Forward project is and the community of practice. So these meetings are open to anyone who has an interest in assistive technology. Participants have included regular education teachers, special education teachers, occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, we have administrators who attend them, AT professionals from throughout the state, caregivers, advocates, and obviously individuals who use assistive technology. If you are a parent, this would be a great resource to share with your school. I just heard yesterday in a meeting, I think we have, is it 100 and I'm going to mess it up, 130, 160, I can't remember, something like that, different districts that are participating in or registered for the AT Forward project. So there is a big range of people from around the state, but it is just a really great resource for everybody, and it never hurts to check to see if the professionals you're working with know about it. The community of practice focuses on several areas. One area would be supporting our marginalized students, also providing support to families so that they're able to assist their children. This was especially important during the pandemic, as we had a lot of people doing virtual learning. A lot of our community of practice meetings were to help families and caregivers learn about the technologies that are out there, as needs may have changed when students were learning from home. Helping to build capacity of our educators. So we know that there's a large need to learn more about assistive technology, and so we're really trying to help build capacity, especially in some of the smaller districts throughout the state. And making it a sustainable system so that they can continue to provide great AT supports for students. The community of practice is virtual meetings. Last year and now this year, we hold them approximately twice a month. There might be some months where there's only one meeting, just based on calendar and holidays and things, but for the most part, we have 2 meetings a month, and we provide information, guidance, and share the most up-to-date information. We have usually 1 or 2 AT experts and those with lived experiences presenting. So you saw a little clip from one of our meetings. We try to share ideas, resources, and collaborate. So although the recordings are posted on YouTube, we do spend time after we stop the recording, answering questions and trying to support individuals who may come to the meeting and need help in that area or any area that they present a question about. And then we use the information and resources from community of practice meetings to support students, families, educators, and professionals. So our hope is that the people that are attending these meetings are bringing this information back to the parents and district colleagues that they're working with. The Community of Practice is a free virtual learning network. If you haven't signed up or you know somebody who would benefit from joining the conversation, you can use this link. So if you click on the link, it will bring you to sign up for the Community of Practice and the AT Forward project. Once you sign up, you'll start receiving email and newsletter updates with monthly tips that my colleague Kathy White usually sends out. And then the other new development for this year that I think is really, really great is that our AT Forward, we started our AT Forward micro-credential program. I'm going to try clicking on the link. Bonnie, are you seeing the AT Forward website?
Yes, I am.
Good. So when you click on the link, it'll bring you to the AT Forward project website. And we wanted to provide a way to get even more expertise. So our meetings are 1-hour meetings, and they do provide a lot of information, but to really go back to some of the basics of assistive technology, we wanted to sort of honor some of the professional development that's out there and give people opportunities to showcase that. So you can register for the AT Forward Community of Practice and then sign up for the micro-credential project. What you do is there is some great AT internet modules that were originally developed off of the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative work, and many of the original individuals that supported that work recorded professional development modules. Then you'll go through each module that you want. You can pick the modules you want. Here they are down here. AAC and communication, assessment, organization and executive functioning, hearing, vision. So based on what your expertise is or your interest is or your child's needs are, you can pick an area or multiple areas, and then you're going to watch the modules, and there is a quick assessment at the end of each module. You just print that out and submit that, and that helps you get that micro-credential, and the micro-credential then you can put in your email. And we've had a lot of individuals who have registered for these micro-credentials. You have until the end of the year, and we're hoping to find a way to continue this even after the funding for the AT Forward project ends at the end of the school year. And then there are question and answer sessions that you can sign up for or contact anyone from the AT Forward project. So it's a really great way to learn more about assistive technology and get recognized for the work that you're doing by getting that little AT micro-credential badge that you can put into your email signature. So what we're going to do for the remainder of our time is we are going to watch a few clips, and we're going to kind of model them off of what one of our community of practice meetings looks like. So I have some questions for discussion, and I know you guys are all muted, which is fine, but please feel free to type your thoughts in the chat. I have a second monitor up and I can monitor the chat here. Bonnie's monitoring it as well. And what we do as we are having some of these, we're watching our presenters, is we're asking questions, and we are talking about, through that community of practice and the individuals that are attending those meetings, we are having discussions about what we're learning about. So as I play these clips for you, if you have any questions, have any thoughts, experiences with any of this, feel free to put it in the chat, and we can talk a little bit more about it. So the questions as you're watching: What types of assistive technology do you have experience with, and why is it important to consider assistive technology use? And then another guiding question would be, how can simple steps such as using alt text help provide accessible content? So these are two topics that we learned about last year at our October 27th meeting. So I'm going to play this.
So we know what it is, but so why? Why would we worry about making things accessible? Can't everybody use everything? So some of the key reasons are we have users that access content with screen readers. So that means that they are relying upon auditory feedback from what is being shown in an email or on the web or on their computer. So everything is coming through their ears. We have folks that are using screen magnification. So they are still using their vision. However, they need to alter what things look like on that screen. We've got folks that are accessing content that either need text to speech or speech to text. We may have an individual that is using a switch access, or they aren't able to use a standard keyboard. So are we creating content that someone with different abilities or different access modes is able to get to? We're going to spend a bunch of time talking about reactions later in today's session. And then we also have to think about our learning styles and cognition when we think about accessibility. So that is why. We've got the what and the why. And of course, we have the legalities. So we don't all, this wasn't all created just, out of fun, but we do need to ensure that we are following the letter of the law. So that includes the Facilities Act, the Rehab Act, and the Telecommunications Act, Section 5. And I got an email today at work from a colleague who was kind of new to this concept of creating accessible content. And he had sent me a link for their services now that will provide you, they'll go through your website, they'll make it accessible, they'll do the hard work for you. And he said, well, this is kind of a new concept that's coming around. And so I had to refer back, and I said, well, not exactly new. This actually dates all the way back to the Rehab Act in the 70s. So our laws have been addressing this for quite some time.
Okay, let's see if I can get out of here. There we go. So part of that meeting included, we had Amy Snow, who works for the Wisconsin School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and she sort of presented on some of her experiences and expertise. Anna Cliff is a program support teacher in the Madison School District and an OT by training. And then Laura Plummer, who you saw speaking, is our statewide AT Act program coordinator for Wisconsin. So we were really focusing the conversation on how can our teachers make their content that they're creating accessible to everybody. But the larger conversation and what Laura Plummer was pointing out is that we need to consider this for all presentations we're giving. I have something called alt text on all of the images within this presentation so that if anyone with a screen reader is looking at it, they know what those images are. And even within greater conversations at DPI, we have tried to really focus on making sure all content that's going on the DPI website moving forward is taking into consideration a lot of these accessibility features as well. So it's really important for everybody who wants individuals with disabilities to have equal access to the content that they're putting out there. And so we're going to watch one more clip on the Microsoft Accessibility Checker, and this is an easy way that you can make sure that some of your content is accessible.
So, alternative text. What's alternative text? If you're a screen reader user, you're blind. There's nothing really more annoying than going to a web page and having it say graphic graphic, graphic. Literally, that's what it says, graphic, graphic, graphic. And it's very annoying because you don't know whether the graphic that it's telling you is there, which is nice that it tells you it's there, but you don't know whether it's relevant to the material that is in the document. So what you need to do is create alt text, which is an alt text description, or it's also called an alt tag or alternative text. It's just basically a very brief description of the appearance and function of the image. So the data is used in 3 ways, which is very interesting. Firstly, it helps assistive technology such as screen readers define the image and tell what it is to your blind and visually impaired users. Interestingly enough, it also appears in place of the image. You know, those when you get the emails that tell you that it's not safe to download all the images, and you see that there's like these little boxes that have text in it with a little X next to it, or other like squiggly lines. That is the alt text. That's what you're seeing written down in those squares. And lastly, it also helps search engines better understand and how to rank your content. So those are the 3 main reasons that people include alt text. Alt text versus captions. This picture here in the middle is an example of what I was just trying to explain with how pictures that don't load appear is this odd text here. The alt text, you basically want to use that as it's used kind of hidden behind the image. Alt text is not viewable by somebody who's sighted, but it's picked up by a screen reader. A caption is different. A caption is written under a piece of a graphic or a piece of information or a chart and explains the purpose that a sighted person can see as well. So there is a difference between alt text and captions. It can really depend on which one you want used. If you go through Facebook a lot, you get a lot of memes. And I'm a really big fan of memes. I think they're hilarious. If they involve a cat, it's even better. So people will alt text their memes if they are kind individuals. If they don't feel that that's necessarily helpful, in some ways they prefer to stick the image description in the stats. And that happens on Instagram as well, Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. All of those things can be used. You can do alt text on all of those captions.
So I said it was about Microsoft Accessibility Checker, but you can go back to that clip and watch that part of the meeting because there are some really great tips for checking your accessibility. But Amy actually told us a little bit more in depth about the importance of alt text. So just wondering, have any of you guys used alt text at all in your presentations that you've presented or in web content that you have posted?
So I do have a comment from obviously somebody who has not been able to do that. Does presenting alt text, does that a difficult process? How does one actually even begin to utilize this alt text?
Sure. So I can give you just a really quick demonstration of how to do it. So I am going to really quickly find an image, and I'm just going to search for something like an apple, and I can insert that into my presentation. And now if I wanted somebody to know that that's using a screen reader, what this is within Google Slides, how I would do it is I can right click, and you'll see right here is alt text, or you can use Control Alt Y within Google. And then I might give it a title of Apple. And then the description, this is a round red, because some apples are green, right? Apple. So it's going to be something very concise. You're going to describe the image or tell what it is. And now when a screen reader goes through and picks that up, the individual who may have a visual impairment maybe will be able to know what images are on your slides. And an accessibility checker such as Microsoft's will help you pick up on some of those things where you miss them. Sometimes I know I do a lot of presenting and have a lot of presentations, and sometimes I miss one. So it's nice just to be able to double check that. But if you go back to these YouTube links, you'll be able to watch the clips all together. And in a few slides, I'll show you where to find all of the recordings from the meetings from last year and this year.
So there is a follow-up to that says,
Sure.
Do you have to physically do it individually for every graphic that you present, or is it something that will just happen on its own?
There are some programs that will try to automatically add alt text to images, but you always have to go through and double check and make sure that it's correct, it's described correctly. And some of the social media tools I think do that, but by habit I just usually go through and add them myself. And once you get in the habit of doing it, it doesn't seem like that much extra work, because as I'm working on that slide, I just quickly enter the alt text, move on to the next. It becomes a part of my flow or process in my presentations. I usually don't leave it to the end and go back and do all of it. I try to do each slide as I add an image.
There is one other question. Do you want to take that now?
Sure.
The question, when you're talking about alt text versus captions, do all programs now offer you the option of being able to caption all of what you're writing?
I don't want to say all programs because I'm sure there's some that don't, but I think the most of the big ones do. But I don't want to make that blanket statement. So if you're giving presentations, web content, like I manage my own buildingaac.com web page, and on there I'm able to add alt text very easily. And most programs, if they have a search function on how to do something, or you can even do like a Google search on how to do it, will walk you through. But for the most part, I find that right-clicking usually gets me to that menu of options, and I'm able to add alt text in most programs that way.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Sure. So this is our second clip from one of our AT Forward meetings. This is a little bit different topic. In this presentation, we had a gentleman who works for the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DVR, and we have two clips that we're going to kind of look through. And our guiding questions to think about while we're watching them are, do you work with DVR to support AT tools for students in post-graduation? If you're a parent, have you worked with DVR yet? If you have a child who is over 14, we start to consider transition at the age of 14. Not that DVR might get involved quite that young, but that's when you start to think about some of these agencies and who might best service our students. And then what benefits do you see with the shared cost of AT tools? So we'll click on the first link here.
We do collaborate with our community partners to ensure that students' AT needs are being met. And we also do if needed, we do facilitate some of that process as well. So what I mean by that, for example, this fall and spring, I was working with a college-bound senior. She was using assistive technology. We did do our own assessment, DVR assessment, to see what was out there. She was like, what I'm using right now works pretty well, but I'm on board for seeing if there's something new. So we did for that assessment. We reviewed the assessment in December, and one of the several of the recommendations were computer software. So I believe one of them was Dragon Natural Speaking. Another one was that we can never say that word. Sonophant audio note taker app, among other things. But what we learned is that the college she's going to provides a laptop for free to all of its students. So I've worked with the student. Fast forward to spring, now she's applying to school, she's connecting to disability services. I worked with that student and the college disability services to determine that the laptop they provide meets the minimum system requirements for her software. And then this is still an in-process thing, but we're working to make sure that she can get an accommodation to get access to that laptop at the beginning of summer, as opposed to the first 2 weeks of school, so that we can install that assistive technology and provide that training. Now, another thing that we did to facilitate this transition is she is really good at self-advocating for herself, but going to college as a high school student is a very new thing, of course, and she has never had to ask for accommodations because in the secondary setting and before, somebody identifies those needs on her behalf, typically. And so that transition to the college, I spent a lot of time with her talking about the differences between college and high school accommodations and disability accommodations, what those look like. And then I actually with her permission, I sat in on her disability services intake. She was awesome. She did most of the question asking, but I was there at her request to make sure that all of the right questions were answered and that we were working together, me, her, and the disability services, to ensure that that laptop is available by early June. And if not, DVR is going to move forward and purchase that laptop, because at least personally, I don't like having my students have to learn in their freshman year in college, their classes, learn how to navigate those college resources, which is already overwhelming for a lot of students. And then also now you have to learn the technology that's more likely to be successful. So I try to have that technology obtained and trained on at least in part before they start in college.
So how important is that? I mean, what a great conversation. And really working in the public schools, in my position that I'm in through the Green Bay Area Public Schools, this is such a critical thing that we do, is working with DVR counselors, working with community support professionals or agencies to make sure that the transition from high school to whatever comes next for that individual includes all of those tools, and maybe even different tools. What they needed in school may not meet their needs as they transition to post-graduation life. And I love that this DVR counselor was so wonderful in acknowledging that, okay, when this individual starts college in fall, she doesn't need to be learning the new tools on top of all of the new content. So can we get this this laptop to her, and can we get it all set up, and can we give her opportunities to use these tools over the summer months, so when it comes to starting college as a freshman, that's not an area that's going to cause even more stress, because she's learning the tools on top of the content and adjusting to life, post high school, and maybe even living independently in college in the dorms. So, I love that. And we had so many great conversations. This was probably one of my favorite AT Forward community practice meetings that we did all last year, because I learned so much. And so I'm going to show one more clip, because I think this is a really great clip as well, in thinking about assistive technology supports and who can fund them after that individual graduates from high school.
We have another question that says, will DVR ever share the cost of an item if a district provided equipment for a student? Would DVR ever purchase that equipment from the district so that the individual would continue to use that specific equipment?
Jennifer, I love that question. The answer is yes, especially if it's going to be either so specific to that student that anything else just wouldn't work quite as well, especially if it was something that was customized or adapted by the school, or if, usually it's offered at a discounted price because it has been used. I know some cases.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think let me rewind. I think I messed that up.
For up to 10 semesters, for a bachelor's degree. So that's 5 years. We have
Hold on, I'm gonna restart it because I accidentally hit something and messed it all up.
another semester for an associate's degree and another year for a 4-year degree.
Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
Then we have another question that says, will DVR ever share the cost of an item? If a district provided equipment for a student, would DVR ever purchase that equipment from the district so that the individual would continue to use that specific equipment?
Jennifer, I love that question. The answer is yes. Especially if it's going to be either so specific to that student that anything else just wouldn't work quite as well. Especially if it was something that was customized or adapted by the school, or if, you know, usually it's offered at a discounted price because it has been used. That's probably going to be lower cost than anything else, and as long as the consumer agrees to that and it makes sense, DVR would certainly share the cost of an item. Some cases we can break funding, so the school pays for this much, DVR pays for this much, and we work out all those details through that.
So I think that was a really important conversation that we had. I had asked that question because I had seen another webinar from a gentleman named Luke Gollinker, who is a lawyer out of the New York area and consults with the United States Society for AAC or USAC. And it was a webinar on who funds communication systems, and he had offered DVR as a option for paying for communication devices. And I had never really thought of DVR, and then when I asked our presenter at the community of practice meeting, his answer was fantastic. And it doesn't have to be a communication device. I mean, it could be any sort of adaptive equipment. A lot of our OTs and PTs in the schools really customize equipment for a lot of our students. And so but a lot of times it's very specific to that student. So if the district can recoup some of the costs and it saves DVR some money, you know, I really think that there is a lot of benefit to having those discussions, and again, providing that consistency. If that student knows how to use that tool and really does well and succeeds with it, we don't want to change tools because you know, now the district owns that and the student can't have it anymore. So, you know, I just think it's a really important conversation. And really, again, this whole AT forward meeting with the DVR counselor was phenomenal. So definitely would recommend going back and watching that if you have some time. Does anyone have any questions about that community of practice meeting or some of these guiding questions?
I do have a comment and a question, and it says, whose responsibility is it from the school standpoint to be able to present some of this information and remind people that the information and the practice part should happen prior to the graduation of the person with disabilities, for example, speech to text, or the utilization of some of these other types of AT aids that would be really beneficial for a student entering that needed these helps?
Sure, that's a great question. And if the individual has an individualized education plan or an IEP, there's a checkbox that has to be checked, you know, saying that the IEP team has considered assistive technology. And again, assistive technology are those tools and also those services. And so, and then you have to list out what assistive technology supports or tools are being used. And so as a part of that IEP process, anybody can bring that up, and you should be having those conversations. And going back to, I'm gonna skip back a couple slides to that image that I shared before of what is assistive technology. This WADI AT continuum is a great tool to have printed out and bring with you to IEPs, because it shows, it's a checklist of all of the different categories of assistive technology and some of the tools that may be beneficial. So oftentimes, and I've sat in on tons of IEP meetings, we maybe just graze over that checkbox, or we don't really think critically about it. But I think we should be having some conversations about what those tools are and creating those services that may need to go along with the tools to make sure that the students are trained and do know how to use them as they graduate from high school.
I have another comment type question
Sure.
that involves DVR, and it says oftentimes there are some DVR counselors that are a whole lot more knowledgeable than others in some of these areas. What would be your suggestion about how to address some of these things? And now, knowing that DVR is able to pay for some of these things, how do we approach it?
Well, that did come up. Actually, Mike Hipple, who you saw in one of the previous clips, asked the gentleman, the DVR counselor that was presenting, he said, how can I switch to you? Because I want you. And so he did talk a little bit about that in the meeting, and how you can request different DVR counselors if there are different counselors in your area. But, you know, I'm not an expert at DVR, and oftentimes, you know, my work ends and they pick up and continue, since I work primarily with the school age. So I would go back and watch the meeting, because he did address that. Maybe not fully, but you know, I think, you know, you probably do have some legal rights there if you're not happy with your DVR counselor. You know, and I see that too with county funding. Counties oftentimes different counties will provide different supports, and even just different case managers will provide things differently and interpret the legalities differently. So I think you just have to advocate for the individual that you're working with, ask those questions, and make yourself knowledgeable. And part of doing that is going to be attending some of these community practice meetings, maybe getting some of those micro credentials and becoming more familiar with assistive technology.
Okay, thank you for that. There is a technical question. The person asks, are the links clickable? They seem to be having trouble clicking on them. If they're having
I don't know in the PDF that was uploaded, but again, the bit.ly is down on the bottom of the slides here. If you use the bit.ly and you go to the Google Slides, everything should be clickable.
Okay, thank you for that. And that's all I have for now. And we have about 7 minutes left.
Yep. So to talk a little bit about our meetings, we have our 1-hour virtual meetings for the remainder of this school year. Some upcoming topics that we thought we would highlight and might be interesting to you. Cassie Frost and I are presenting this evening from 4 to 5 on behavior as communication. On December 16th, the topic is Universal Design for Learning, using technology that promotes student engagement for all. On March 7th, low and no cost resources to support assistive technology. And on May 11th, non-academic activities, engaging students in social and leisure activities. And if you click on this link, upcoming topics, it will take you to the AT Forward meeting. And here you'll find the topics. You'll find the recordings for some of the meetings we've already had. And here,
Jennifer, we're having a little bit of a technical issue here. So they may have missed the last thing that you said.
For the remainder of the school year. So that is there for you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, not sure if that's on my end or your end. I just said that we have the upcoming meeting topics are right here. So if you click on that, it will take you to our AT Forward PDF where recordings from past meetings are on here for this year. And then if you want to register, you would also click on the link and register for the upcoming topics for the remainder of the year. This is the AT Internet modules that go along with the macro credentials. Even if you don't want to do the macro credentials, anybody can create a free account and go through the AT Internet modules. There's a link for the DPI Assistive Technology website. You'll find links to the AT Learning modules, AT Forward project, some of the work from the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative, and also information on the Wisconsin AT Lending libraries for equipment that is out there. And then we wanted to acknowledge some of the partners in assistive technology. This is another group that I work with. It's called the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Regional Network, or WATERN. And we have created, I think there's 7 regions, and we typically meet in person. We've been meeting virtually because of COVID, but we are basically another community of practice, but one that meets more regionally and tries to network on assistive technology in our area. And we have some great presentations for the rest of this year that you can check out here. The State Leaders in Assistive Technology and Education slate. Cassie will be presenting, and Kathy White will be presenting at the slate conference next week. We have the Assistive Technology Council, Wisconsin AT for All, which is a lending library through the AT Act. There's the UDL Forward project through DPI, our Assistive Technology Forward. And then I also wanted to quickly highlight the WCAS, or this is the Wisconsin Council of Administrators of Special Services. So these are administrators of districts throughout Wisconsin, and they put out a great guide called How to Provide Students with IEPs Access to Their Grade Level Curriculum Through Text-to-Speech. So it's a very in-depth look. It's like over 100 pages, so it's very in-depth on text-to-speech. We also have some AT Forward meetings that also highlighted things like text-to-speech, so you can go back to the Assistive Technology Forward webpage and you can go to the COP meeting playlist, and you will find all sorts of resources.
Your work can feel much smoother with Monday.com WorkOS.
I think I must have clicked a little too quick there. You should bring up, what's bringing up? I don't know why it's doing that. It should bring up a document that has listed out all of the meetings from last year. Oh, maybe this is what it was. I was clicking on the wrong thing, the video guide. It has all of the meetings from last year broken up into parts, where if there's a specific topic that you want to learn more about, you can go back and watch some of those meetings. They will be hopefully there for a long time and be a resource to many people in the future. So I maybe have 2 minutes left if there's any other questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. I hope you can join us at an AT Forward meeting either tonight or in the future. And best of luck. I think that's all I have. Bonnie?
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. We greatly appreciate it. At this time, we don't have another question. If there was a way to share your contact information with anybody who might have a further question, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you have any kind of other closing statement that you'd like to make.
I just put my email address in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. You can also contact me through my website as well. There's my website. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your presentation today. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm sure that everybody who's on the webinar with us has done the same. We appreciate your expertise in this area, so thank you. This will conclude our webinar for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Please be reminded that Wisconsin Facets has over 100 scheduled trainings and webinars for the year 2022 now. And we'd like you to check our website and our calendar, as it will be appearing shortly for next year's presentation. We still have a couple that are left for the month of December. Please also watch for the short evaluation that will be coming your way after today's live presentation. Again, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Bye-bye.